My name is James Briggs. I work in the building industry, I'm afraid. My background's in engineering and construction, which I suppose makes me quite a naturally cautious, methodical chap. I'm taking this project forward with another chap called Ashley Parasram, who is more of a visionary and an inspirational character. He had the inspirational vision to spend 2 months in Tobago advising the government on sustainable development, which is why he's not here, unfortunately. So you're stuck with me. The two of us are literally the core team of this project. We're taking it forward together. The two different personalities seem to work quite well. We bounce ideas off each other quite a lot. But what we're introducing really is not just a building, but a new way of working for the people who are going to be in it. Hopefully this works. Good. Done that one. So the idea was to bring together some like-minded organisations which are traditionally been quite poorly served by the commercial property sector. We actually started off in the top two because Ashley started off as my client. I was working for a project management company. He was working for in the international development arena. They were a lot of the organisations were working in sort of the end of leases in very inappropriate conditions, very inappropriate buildings for them, and the idea was to bring them together into a single collaborative environment that they could all work in. But it also became very apparent pretty quickly that they worked a lot with technology companies. They were now relying a lot more on technology to deliver their services. They were working with a lot more private sector partners. And in the field of climate change adaptation, things are moving quite quickly. And we decided that to take it forward more as a collaborative venture between them and their partners rather than just them. And it's now become more of a cluster idea whereby we're very open to technology companies as well as development organisations. So the idea was to improve the way they work together. We'll also be providing services directly to the tenants within the building. So we will put a consultancy in the building that will help these organisations not only to work together but to come together on projects, and I'll talk a bit about how the building works to do that in a minute. We'll give them project management support, obviously all the usual things like the joint meeting rooms, joint admin services, and it will be very much open to startups as well as established organisations. I mean, some of the organisations have been around for 20 or 30 or even 50 years in various forms, and others are literally 2 or 3 people who we will be putting together in an office. So first of all, it was the building itself was going to be a home for the sector. It'll be the first contemporary commercial timber frame office building. The idea being to personify in a way the work that the organisations do. And we want it to be sustainable, efficient, low energy working, but not necessarily a high-tech building in itself. We'd like it to be a building that works and a building that people can understand and can use properly and as it is intended. Having worked in construction for a long time, I think a lot of the time we are a bit stuck in the Roman age, partly because people have to be taught how to use anything that's not stuck in the Roman age. So the idea is to make it very simple and straightforward. But we want it to become a hub at the centre of a global network. The organisations already have their own network, which I'll come to in a minute. So as well as being a physical resource, it will be a virtual resource for the companies within it and their partners outside it and across the world as well. Cost is another big issue, not only for our third sector partners, third sector companies who rely on government funding, some of which is quite uncertain. It goes up and down quite dramatically. They get funded for projects and then sometimes the funding drops away after a few years. But also, of course, for their private sector partners, for clean technology companies that we're trying to attract. As well as office space, we want to have R&D incubator space in the same building, so the whole thing will come under one roof. And obviously cost is a big issue. And part of the reason of having the prefabricated timber frame building is that we can keep down our rental costs and also keep down the running costs. We also would like to use the building as a test bed for new technologies. The facade of the building will be available for use by R&D companies to try out their various technologies. Our technical team, very quickly, my company is the one on the top right, Bright Angle, which was set up about 3 years ago to take forward this and 2 or 3 other projects. Our architects are Field and Clegg Bradley, who are very experienced in timber frame construction and low energy natural ventilated structures, as are Atelier 1 and Atelier 10. Ridge are our cost consultants. Eversheds and Batesweld and Braithwaite are our legal advisors. Contour Capital have been assisting us with our financing. I have to say we've got an awful lot of people who do an awful lot of things for very little money so far, but we're very, very grateful to them. The design that we have is effectively a number of interlinked work units, double height so that mezzanines can be put in if necessary, but also to give the extra space for any R&D and equipment that needs to go in there. So it can be used either for office or for R&D. These units can be linked horizontally, vertically or diagonally so that you can expand when your funding increases, or if you want to come together to work on projects, you can do, and then separate again when those projects are complete. These can literally be joined together over a weekend with elements that are delivered on the back of a flatbed truck. Not very technologically advanced, but there we are. We're looking at about the building we're looking at the moment, which I'll come to, is slightly higher than this. This was our competition design.
Getting quieter and quieter.
Am I?
I'm sitting in the front. Right at the back, probably can't hear what you're saying.
Right, I apologise. Is that better? Okay. The building that you see here is a little bit smaller than the one which we're taking forward at the moment. Each work unit is about 5 metres floor to ceiling. As I said, you'll be able to expand and contract according to your needs. The units will give you your independent space, but you'll be also the advantage of being part of a much larger development, and the sort of gravitas that gives you and the name recognition that gives you is something that our smaller tenants have been very, very keen on. That's a sample floor plan. You can see that's how they might join up. That's another example of the stacked way that the units work. The site that we're looking at the moment is in Canada Water, which has traditionally been a bit of a backwater, literally, of London. But there's a lot of development happening there at the moment. British Land have taken a large swathe of Canada Water. They have a requirement for a commercial element. They're very keen on residential, but so they're actually very keen to have us involved down there. They've been very positive. Certainly, they've not necessarily demanded a market rate for our site, which has been very helpful. And the connectivity is a lot better than it used to be. I mean, as you mentioned, we have a lot of investment in transport infrastructure in that part of London. It is 5 minutes from Westminster, 2 minutes from Canary Wharf, where Crossrail will be by the time it opens. And that gives us great connectivity to Heathrow, to Stratford International, and to the high-speed rail network. Just a very quick run-through sample tenants that we will be sharing the space with. Lead, which is one of our original tenants that came to us 3 or 4 years ago, have programmes in all the places you see on the map. IEEP is another one. They have London and Brussels. Panos International, they run programmes in all those locations. Institute of Development Studies. And so you can see we build up this network. TVE, which is they make television films for promoting environmental issues. And the Overseas Development Institute, which we're for obvious reasons, we're quite keen to have, run programmes across the world. And this is a ready-made network, which at the moment isn't used particularly positively in terms of connecting them together. And what we'd like to do is to make the building a centre of this hub and use this network to bring knowledge and experience both ways, and technology both ways. And to use the building for things like speaker events for summer schools. So some of our original proposed residents are there, and they're our original public sector residents or third sector residents, and they have a lot of private sector partners that we're looking to plug into the building. So by 2020, we are in discussion on a second site at the moment with Imperial, College, which will be more of a campus site, so a slightly different offering to this. This, I think, will be more suited to those who want to be close to Canary Wharf, close to Westminster. They've also had a lot of demand for university affiliation, and Imperial have been very positive with that, as have King's College, who may also be having a presence in Canada Water. So we'd like to build links with them as well. That's back on solid ground for me. It's a construction program. So we are, at the moment, we're up here somewhere. So there's quite a way to go yet before we get to the end of the construction period. We are looking to go for planning with British Land in the summer, and complete at the end of 2016 for tenants to move in. But we will be developing our network well before then. So we'll have a ready-made network as soon as we move into the building. There you go, I think. We had the construction cost about 7.1 million, which is actually a very good price for a building of this size, which is about 45,000 square feet. We went for specialist green tech funding, and we actually found that the terms were worse than what was available through just simply going through a commercial funder. So we have 2 or 3 commercial funders who are offering us standard terms. They have been very good to us in terms of the covenants, because some of our tenants are not necessarily that strong in terms of covenant strength. But we have that agreed in principle as long as we get planning next year. And we aim to buy out the asset on completion so that we will own the building outright, or rather we'll own an awful lot of debt which is secured on the building outright on completion, and that will enable us to run the building in the interest of the tenants and in the interest of the network that we build, rather than us being sort of ad hoc or in hoc to a developer or a long-term investor. That is a summary of the project. Thank you very much for listening. We have